All right, so take a couple of nice, deep, into the body breaths. Let your belly just soften as you breathe in and out. And let your body soften in the chair, just relaxing. Closing your eyes, letting the mind become peaceful, quiet, like a beautiful blue sky day, just empty and open. And your breath coming deeper into your body, bringing with it the nourishing and softening that a body-connected breath does. And letting your heart just feel its softness and aliveness. Perhaps today you had some feelings there of being connected to your family, some feelings of being connected to the energy here. Or perhaps there was something unexpected, a beautiful surprise of awakening, of love, and the energy of honoring that the entourage in Kryon has for the human. And imagine that honoring of yourself from yourself, as if you are looking into a mirror. Look inside right now and say thank you to your beautiful self for this opportunity to be in the chair today, to be in the family and in the love. Feel the loving arms of Spirit around the room, hugging you, thanking you for seeing yourself as love, for letting that blossom inside of you, filling you with each soft, full, deep breath. Loving you from the inside as you are loved from the outside, from the creative source, from the unlimited divine, the all that is, to the you, the I am that you are. And feel the I am love. I am limitless. I am one.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner steps aside. He does it quickly. He's done it this way for years. We've said it before, there's no preparation to channel in his life. Because I'm always there. Years ago, he dropped the fear that it would be something inappropriate or wasn't right, and understood that it was right. And that regardless what others would say, he could not deny the rightness of the love of God. And what we want to do tonight may seem like a review to some, but we have never given a channel like this, not like this, where we put all of the subjects together that we have talked about for so long regarding one element. We have named this before, and the one element is common sense. We're even going to call it spiritual common sense. The channel, by the nature of what we teach, will be offensive to some who for years have been taught a certain thing by those they love, appreciate, and honor. And yet it's a chance for many to see something they never really considered. And the metaphor that we will present to you to start this message is the child sitting on the beach. The child represents human beings. The fact that they are a child represents that part of that consciousness that you are right now. It's a society that it's in its infancy of wisdom or knowledge, but wondering. The beach represents Gaia, or a part of it that you sit upon, which is your reality. The child on the beach starts to ask questions. We're going to take you through a few of those questions. And in every single case, we'll point out the fallacy when you don't use common sense, especially that which is spiritual. You always have a choice to feel the truth or go with what you've been taught. And one will have common sense and the other will have what you were taught. And sometimes that bridge is hard to cross for billions of people. The child sits on the beach and the child wonders, is there a God? The child is not aware of the universe, the galaxy, the majesty, the divinity, the love. Not aware of the great central source of a creation that doesn't come from a creator as much of a benevolent energy that affects every atomic level. The child is not aware of the song that is sung from the creative source to all life, that sings of the glory and the beauty of God. The child is not aware of the miracle of the creation of the planet to be at a certain time, a certain place, for the child to sit on the beach. The child is not aware of the common sense of looking at humanity and asking, what is intuitive thought? The child doesn't know that over 80% of the planet believes in the afterlife. That 80% of the planet, no matter what they believe, knows there's a God. The child doesn't know, really, that the very questioning of is there a God is caused by what's inside the child. A piece of God itself is in the child's DNA, and it stirs the consciousness that then asks the question, is there a God? Common sense, if there were no God, why would you ask? Look around you, dear ones, and tell me there's no God. And some will say, I have looked around and it's evil and horrible and awful. And I will tell you, you haven't looked at the beauty. You haven't looked at the situation. You haven't known of the timing of this planet or what you're into or what's going to happen next. If you only go with what you're taught and you don't use common sense, you're in a box of your own making. And some of those boxes are very dark. That's number one. The child comes to the conclusion, yes, there is a God. And then the child starts to ask the other questions that all humanity asks. Is it possible that there's other life? For hundreds of years, humanity has sat on the beach, looking at the beautiful whiteness of the sand and holding it, letting it trickle through the fingers of the child. And they've used that which is their intellect and their logic, and they have said this: because I am only sitting on one beach, I have no evidence that there are other beaches on the planet. Therefore, I am content to believe I am on the only beach, because this is the only one that I can see. That's exactly what you've done. Because you cannot see the other life, you make up your mind, because it does not visit you in a way that is profoundly obvious, that it doesn't exist. You look out upon the vast universe and you continue to wonder, is there life? And it's exactly like the child on the beach, sitting on the beach saying, there probably aren't other beaches, because I can't see them, because they don't visit me. There's no evidence. I'm sitting on the only beach. I want you to start using spiritual common sense. The creator of all things, the beautiful energy, not just of love and life, but of all things that exist. A consciousness that you cannot even begin to imagine, that permeates that which is the very molecular structure and the atoms that make up everything. When this energy created the universe and your galaxy, do you really think that the only place upon trillions of planets will be yours with one kind of life? It doesn't make sense. It's not common sense that you would be alone. And you're not. There'll come a day when you'll know I'm correct, and it won't be what you think. This galaxy of yours teems with life. There's so much life, but it's so big and so vast. By design, you don't see it naturally. By design, the child sits on the beach. By design, you cannot see another beach. Because oceans don't work that way. The beaches don't show up to meet with other beaches. The child would have to travel a vast distance to see that they're wrong, that the beaches are everywhere, everywhere. And they're so beautiful. And if the child used common sense, they'd say the earth has to be filled with beaches, because that's the way things work. That's the way the elements come together. And they create beaches, and the elements come together, and they create life, just like here. The very process that created life here creates it everywhere. You're not alone. And then the child say, well, if this is so, I wonder what kinds of life there are. And the child says, well, surely it wouldn't be like us. It'd be like odd-looking characters with 4 noses and 5 arms, a few eyes hanging out of their elbow. The child has a vivid imagination of what other life must look like in other parts of the universe and other parts of the galaxy. Never using common sense. Let me tell you something. The beauty of DNA is everywhere. Everywhere. There will be the discovery of microbial life eventually in your own solar system. And when you start examining it, you're going to find DNA. The structure may be different, but it's DNA. The double helix is everywhere. And it's everywhere because the same principles of physics, of creation, of benevolence, of light and dark, of heat and cold are the same everywhere in the galaxy. If physics is the same and life develops the same, it's going to develop in a similar way everywhere. Don't be shocked when someday you will meet that which is your seed creation. Those from very far away, when the time is right, when you're ready, when you come with open arms and love, and when they come out to meet you, they'll be beautiful and they look just like you. And they won't have 4 eyes hanging out of their elbow. It's spiritual common sense, is it not? There will be variety, but the process is the same. The beaches look alike. Oh, some have black sand, some have white sand. Sometimes the sands are coarse, sometimes they're fine. But the process that built the sand from the ocean is the same everywhere on the planet and on other planets as well. Expect variety, but expect similarities. Common spiritual sense is everywhere. But the child still asks the questions as though there were no common sense, because sometimes the child thinks in a way that the child was taught, instead of having a mind that is open to common sense. Number 4, if there's other life, what is the timing of all of it? It probably has a history much like yours. Child says, probably the same kind of history, probably the same timing was involved. But the child doesn't really take into consideration the age of everything. The child doesn't know about the grandness of those who've gone before. The child only knows of the child, of the history of humanity. Doesn't go much further than that. And the assumption that the child makes is that all life everywhere pretty much has the same time duration, history, creation. What does common sense tell you with a galaxy that is 4 billion years old? Does it tell you that all the development was the same? Or does it tell you that perhaps, just perhaps, there are planets with societies looking just like you who have been around for millions of years? And if you think out of the box and use common sense, the potential of that is overwhelming. it also shows that you have arrived just a moment ago. And that there is purpose for this. Whereas the solar system itself and the galaxy that it is within has a 4 billion year history, and humanity has only been here for a couple of 100,000 years. We said it before, dear ones. What is the sense of this? Look at this for a moment. If the galaxy were a 24-hour clock, you arrived about 2 seconds ago. What are the possibilities that there were civilizations far, far older? What are the possibilities that because of their age and because of what you know about consciousness and the Creator, that some of them took on that which is God itself through their DNA, through millions of years? What are the chances that what is happening here and now happened there and then while the earth was forming? And if that's the case, is it common sense? It's far more common sense than thinking that everyone arrived in the last 2 seconds. And if that's the case, is it possible that they have had a part in the creation story of the planet? That you have seeds of your own biology that are mature and great and grand and millions of years old. And that this planet might even be protected in a way that gives it free choice, especially during this shift. That there are things happening here on the planet that were designed to happen for you. To give you these kinds of things. Or is that a stretch of common sense? Number 5. The child says, who is God? What is the attitude of God? Does God know me? Is God pleased or not pleased? Can I offend God? What will happen if I do? And this has gotten more attention from me than anything else that I have ever done on this planet. More times have I said this than anything else. That the human being is so limited in the construct of their consciousness that they have constructed God to be a human being. And we've said the basics before. If it were a planet of dogs, God would be a dog. If it were a planet of possums, God would be a possum. It's all you know. And so all of the dysfunctions of humanity are placed upon the Almighty. And there's no common sense. None at all. The Creator of the universe. Bigger than you can imagine, and yet small enough to fit in you. With a grand that is so much more than anything you could even think of. And you have decided that there are wars in heaven, and fallen angels, and punishment, and judgment. Is that really spiritual common sense? Or is that you in a box with God that is just like you? What is it about humanity that wants God to be dysfunctional and human? God is love, not judgment. There's nothing you can do to displease God. You're part of God. So controversial it is because of what you have constructed for yourself that you call doctrine. You have God scaring children. Visions of horror when you die. And the creator of the universe loves you anyway. Even if it isn't common sense. The most common sense you could have is that you're here for a reason. And dear ones, wait till you hear number 6. You're not just here for a reason, but you're part of the puzzle because you've got a soul. A soul that was created by that central source. That which you call the soul is a piece and a part of the creative source that is inside you. So if you're a piece and a part of God, let me ask you something. Is it common sense that you would send yourself to hell to burn forever? That's you with you. It's controversial. But it's common sense that God is love, not hate, not judgment. And that the very construct of some kind of system that you would have to behave in or you're tortured forever is so human. So human. It comes from low consciousness and one that wishes to control humans and not free them. Number 6. The child sits on the beach and says, I have this life. What happens when I die? Do I come for a moment in time and shine like the sun with a consciousness that loves God and then I die? And all that is me was only here for a little while and then I am dust forever. And there is no more me. And then the child starts to awaken. And the child sees many beaches. The child starts to develop common sense. The child starts to feel the Creator inside, actually starts to feel the consciousness of the Creator inside. The child starts to assume mastery. And the child has a big aha. The child says, I'm eternal. I knew it. The child says, I remember. I watched the earth being created. It was created for me and for all those with me. I saw all of these things, the beauty come together. I came as a human being, and when I died, I came back as a human being because my soul is eternal. I am forever. And when I die, I'll come back again because there is a cycle. It's a beautiful cycle. It is a common sense cycle because the Creator of all things is not going to create a piece of itself that's going to terminate and die. There is no death for the Creator. Time is in a circle. Dear ones, you're the child on the beach, using common sense and starting to awaken to a truth. This, like all things, is a cycle. Except this cycle that you have been in has started to shift. And with it comes more common sense. You may not believe it, but you will. You will. Every single one in the room will take its last breath in your body. Everyone here. What do you think of that? You think it's death, don't you? I'll tell you what, it's a cycle of rejuvenation because you don't live very long lives. And after the last breath, and after a small amount of time, you will awaken yet again, not here, but in an energy that isn't even a place. And you'll hear the wind of the song that is played through this galaxy that represents the love of the Creator. And you will know that everything I have said is true and is real. And through a system that you have had over and over, old soul, you will then come back to this planet with the planning that you've always had before and the selection of others that you've always had before to become young again. Everything is a cycle. But this time around, as I've said before, your youth will carry with it a special wisdom. In a new energy you'll remember. The mistakes you made will not be repeated. You'll have a wisdom that has not been seen on this planet because it's new. And that lifetime will terminate the same way, except that when you take your last breath, it'll be with a smile, because you'll remember it's a cycle. And there will be no fear. And those around you will miss you, but they'll celebrate the fact that there is no death. That's wisdom. When you can surround that person who was dying and sing songs that are uplifting, because it's a cycle. And you'll know it's your cycle and their cycle. That is beautiful. And that, dear ones, is spiritual common sense. 6 items. And we end with that. What are you going to take from this meeting? Wishful thinking or reality? What is your common sense? Is it what you've been taught, or what you are intuiting is real? And if this begins to be real to you, what will you do with it? Dear ones, there are tools on this planet right now that will alert you to common sense. Some of them will fly in the face of everything you've been taught. But more and more of humanity are going to start looking at common sense. Does it make sense for those to understand the love of God and surround themselves and fight over who is correct? And the answer is no. It's an oxymoron for you to face off with your neighbor, build a fence because they don't love God the same way you do. Spiritual common sense will prevail there too. And eventually you'll have a planet of many kinds of faiths and worships where they all agree that there's variety in culture and that God is love. And there's no right or wrong, there's just choice. That's wisdom. That's common sense. And that's what's coming. So how does it affect you now? That's a question that I cannot answer because you have free choice. Free choice to leave this place and laugh at what you've heard. Or free choice to leave this place and have your life dramatically different. For some of you, all I have done is validate what you know. Old soul, Welcome to an earth that is changing. You're in the right place at the right time, no mistake. Now go from this place and show others your light. And if you get a chance, show them common sense. That's enough for today. And so it is.